The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello and welcome to Weighted Donuts, brought to you by Comfortably Zoned Radio and the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Wayne Unger, and I'm here with one of my smart sons, Wyatt Unger. Both my sons are smarter than me. And we're here to talk baseball. Particularly, we're going to do a little recap on the draft. We had planned to do it a little earlier, but, well, you know, life gets in the way. But here we are. Wyatt, say hello to everybody.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'll take it that everybody's doing good. You know I'm doing good. I mean, I just saw you a minute ago. But anyway, it's kind of fun, you know. I'm in my bedroom, Wyatt's in his bedroom. This way, you know, we don't just kind of, you know, it's just easier this way. So we're going to go to the draft, and Wyatt and I are Yankee fans, and well, Wyatt had voiced his displeasure in the Yankees pick in the first round. So, you know, they took Trey Sweeney, a left-handed hitting shortstop. So, Wyatt, let's talk about the Yankees pick before we kind of like run through the draft.
Okay, well, I mean, just because he's a lefty bat, you can't say that, oh, he's the right pick because he's a lefty. You have to draft the best player available. He wasn't that. I didn't like their second-round pick either, Brendan Beck. But back to Sweeney. It's just, and even if you want a lefty bat, you can look at competitive balance round in the first round. The Marlins took Marlins, who had a really good draft, by the way. They took Joe Mack, lefty bat, another guy I would have preferred over Sweeney. Rangers in the second round, Aaron Zavala is another guy who I would have taken over Sweeney. But it's just nothing stands out to me about Sweeney, especially at this. There's just every single aspect of this pick, it doesn't sit well with me. There were better guys available. He wasn't the best guy for this pick. And it's just the fact that more likely than not, he's available in the second round when we pick. This guy is after all ranked number 55 on the big board.
So my question is this. So let's just say they were going for best player available. In an offensive player, not a pitcher, who would have been in your mind, would have been the best pick for them?
The guy that Oakland got at 25, Mr. Max Muncy.
Okay.
That's not a mispronunciation.
Oh no, I know that. I know. Yes, and I believe did they both have the same birthday or something? There was some kind of
same birthday, drafted by the same team.
Look at that. Only one's a righty, and the major league Max Muncy is a lefty. And is there a pitcher who, if you were the Yankees, if it didn't matter whether you were going position player or pitcher, is there a pitcher that you would have taken over Muncy that would have been available for the Yankees?
It's not a pitcher. It's pitchers. Chase Petty, Ty Madden are two that I am dumbfounded that this team passed on them. And then even as you go later down the board, as I'm looking at it, I stumble across our second-round pick, Brendan Beck. Awful. This is a guy who does not have a pure number one pitch. He's just so undeveloped, and it's not like this is a high school prospect. This is a guy who is a 4-year senior at Stanford. It's not like he is 18 and has all the time in the world to develop.
Yes.
You can't pick somebody who is rightfully labeled a prospect out of college.
No, and not only that, and it's not like they said, it's not like he he came from a lesser known college. He played for, Stanford's a premier program, and they play against premier competition. So, I understand your point. I'll be quite honest with you. I'm not 100% familiar with him. Past couple of years, I have not been as familiar with the draft as I used to be. And that's why we have kids around, right? So tell me something. Let's just go to our other New York team before we jump into the rest of the draft. Did the Mets score by drafting Kumar Rocker?
Considering they got him at pick 10, absolutely, and I don't think you could say otherwise. I think if this guy went anywhere outside of the top 5, it's absolutely a great pick. He has a tremendous fastball, as well. Nobody needs me to tell them that. Everybody knows how good of a fastball Kumar Rocker has, and he has a great slider to go with it. You've seen some guys are able to get away with 2 pitches. Lucas Giolito comes to mind, but he will need a third pitch, whether it's his changeup. But he's going to have to develop a third pitch, as every starter has to develop. I was kind of critical on this guy when you saw him early on in the college season being rumored to go number 1. I was very critical of that. I wasn't a fan of his command and his control. But to get him at 10, it's unbelievable pick. And what a week it was for the Mets. Alonso wins the home run derby. Rocker, you get a steal in Kumar Rocker, and they get they have the black jerseys coming back. I'd say it's a pretty good week.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know how good of a week they think it is now, because they did blow a lead to Pittsburgh, and Francisco Lindor just went on the IL, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a short one. So I guess it's more like a mixed bag for them.
If we did this podcast when we planned to, it would have been a good week.
I hear you, but we're here and now. So tell me. I mean, I know you don't think the Pirates made the very best pick that they could. So I know you think Jack Leiter pretty much went where he should have went. Who else do you think? Who do you think were the best players that you think? Not what was rated on the board. Who do you think were the best players in the draft besides Jack Leiter?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a bit of a loaded question, but I really liked Jackson Joby going at 3. And here is my steal of the draft. Khalil Watson going to 16 at the Marlins. Unbelievable how he fell down the board. And if we're going to eliminate pitchers here, the Nats shouldn't have passed on him, although Brady House is pretty good, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But I think that the Rockies, the Mariners, and the Brewers are going to be absolutely – and the Orioles, who I think I need to give them their own segment because they lost the draft 2 years in a row. But those 3 teams – they're going to be kicking themselves for passing on Watson, and Miami just adds to a loaded farm system. Matt McClain at 17 is another pick I like. And same with Gunnar Hoglund, because people sort of wrote him off because he had to get Tommy John surgery. This guy was going to go top 10 had that not happened. And the Blue Jays, they made the right pick. They made a great pick here. And it's not absolutely ideal that 3 of the Yankees' division opponents had really great drafts in Boston, Tampa, and Toronto.
Yeah. By the way, there were how many? Were there 9 shortstops in the first round?
Let's see. You had both of the prep shortstops. You had House. You had Watson and McClain. You had Sweeney. I know the White Sox picked one. Then there's Muncy, along with Carson Williams and Jackson Merrill. And then you have to – that might be 9 right there. But
1,
then
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10.
I can make it's actually 11 because if you're considering competitive balance round A, the Twins also took a high school prospect.
Okay. That's and even like kicking off, the first round, like I think like the first 11 pick 3 of the first 11 was shortstops.
Yes, 3 of the first 11. But the thing is that you're not exactly drafting a shortstop. You're drafting a guy who can obviously switch to second, can probably switch to third, and Austin Martin was drafted as a shortstop, but everybody knew he was going to switch to center field. So
okay.
I think that you can't exactly rely on primary position unless you're talking a big guy, first baseman, or a catcher, or maybe a primarily offensive corner outfielder.
Okay. And actually, we've had the reverse. We've had third baseman. We've had third baseman converted to catcher as well. We've seen that a lot over the years. So now the Pirates took some heat for not taking for going for a first round pick who they can sign under slot. But the buzz is that the rest of their draft was pretty good, and they were smart to reallocate their money that way. What do you think about that?
I think that picking a guy in the first round to go under slot money, I think that's a little overvalued, but it's not like we're talking like they absolutely reached here, like Baltimore did, like Kansas City did, like Colorado did. They still got one heck of a prospect in Davis. And anytime there is an elite catcher on the board, which Davis was a top 5 pick, anytime there's an elite catcher on the board, people really seem to undervalue catchers in the draft. But I'm looking at the rest of their draft here. Anthony Solometo in the second round was another pick I liked. Got a very good frame to be a pitcher. And he is out of high school, so he's going to have time to develop. But I don't think the rest of their draft is really my place to speak on because I'm not too familiar with a lot of these guys. In the 14th round, though, they picked Braylon Bishop. I don't know how they pulled that off because I didn't pay attention to many mock drafts, nor did I make my own because every single year mock drafts are broken within the top 3, and they're lucky to even make it past the top 2. But mock drafts had this guy going in one of the top 5 rounds. So I think that was a great pick. And again, the rest of it, I'm not going to speak on something that I don't know, but from those 3 picks alone, they did well. It's because, sure, it's only 3 picks out of their 20, but those are their top 2 picks and a guy who I would consider a steal by about 9 rounds.
Okay. Now, so would you say it's safe to say that Jack Leiter was the best pitcher in the draft?
Yeah, I don't think anybody can argue that whatsoever. I think he was the best player, honestly.
Okay. And do you think Marcelo Maya was the best offensive player in the draft?
I mean, I'm not high on him, but I can't say no there because if from an offensive standpoint, he's better than Davis, and he is better than Lawler. I will say that. But if Meyer would have went 1, I would not have been a fan of the pick. If Meyer went 2, but Leiter was still on the board, I would not have been a fan of that pick. But the one thing I don't understand about Boston fans is that they fail to realize that these guys, besides Wyatt and Rocker, who are absolutely polished and ready to go in maybe a year or two, a lot of pitchers are not going to reach the majors until, we're talking for this year's draft, we're talking 2024 at the earliest. We could see some outliers make it in 2023. But Boston fans are knocking the team for not taking Rocker. Now, if they were to take Colton Cowser or Henry Davis over Rocker, maybe I understand that. But they need to remember that Meyer is the best offensive player in this draft. And they're hypocritical of it because they wanted pitching, and they were saying that they don't need a shortstop with Bogarts there, not realizing that, if anything, I would want to move Bogarts away from shortstop, considering he's one of the worst defenders in baseball. Not only that, even if you want to keep him there, Marcelo Meyer can move around positions as well. I'm pretty sure he is, has not even turned 19 yet. He's got time. He was the best player. He was the best offensive player in the draft. You don't pass on that, especially when these guys with ETAs of 2024, that would give Boston 3 off seasons to get new pitchers. And all of a sudden, let's say they fill out a rotation, there's no spot for Rocker anyway, and then Boston fans are going to turn around and complain about the pick.
Yeah, is Bogarts, he's on a long-term contract, right? He's still signed for a few more years.
He signed a 6-year deal 2 years ago, so yeah, he's under control. And even after that contract, I don't see why either side would want to. I don't see why Boston wouldn't want him and why he wouldn't want to be in Boston.
Well, it's gonna come down to money.
I mean, you could say that about every single scenario that goes on.
Exactly. It's just how it is now. It is going to come down to money. I mean, he may any player out of loyalty may give a team a little bit of a break, but no one's going to give a team a $20 million break over the long term of the deal. Very few have. The mistake that front offices make is that some players are willing to do that. They're willing to get a better team around them because at the end of the day, they realize I'm still getting paid a ton of money to play a kid's game. So these guys had, let's say, just a homegrown player. A team had faith in them since they were 18 and 19 at some times. So the team sees, oh, so they're willing to give us a discount. The problem that teams make is that they get a little greedy with that discount. Well, it's not only that, okay? I think there's also as much as a player enjoys playing for a team, okay, teams I think teams are penny wise and pound foolish when it comes to players that are not eligible for arbitration. And I'll give you a perfect example, okay? The St. Louis Cardinals have pissed off Jack Flaherty at least 2 years in a row that I'm aware of. It was at least 2 or 3. I'm losing track already. But, a player who is not arbitration eligible has no negotiating power whatsoever. A team can offer, let's say team offers $650. Player can say, well, no, I want $750, and then or I want $8, whatever it is. That team might say, well, we'll give you $675, and that's it. Take it or leave it. And you know what? He has no choice but to either take it or do what Jack Flaherty did. He refused to take it, and they have the option to renew that player, and for whatever number they want, as long as it doesn't go 20% below what he made the year before. And basically, he just told the Cardinals, "No, I'm not negotiating this. No, I'm not doing. I'm not taking your offer." And they just, I believe, they went and just renewed him at the minimum or even lower. But the bottom line is, they created ill will, and so it's a foolish thing to do. And I think in the next, I know this has been discussed. I think we talked about the collective bargaining agreement with Joe, and I think even the week before that with Eric Lenenberg. I think that's going to be addressed. I think the early salaries are going to be addressed because teams are not spending the money anymore for the veteran players, and so I think players are going to be like, well, listen, we're not going to get the money after this point. We want it now. Like, we need to change the system. So what else we got in baseball going on?
A very weird week. And I think that it's just, so first we have the maid that found thousands of ammunition as well as body armor and guns in the hotel room. And then we have the shooting outside of Nationals Park. And the one thing that really bugs me is that you can't find out what provoked the shooting outside of Nationals Park. If these two things are related, you just don't know what's going on.
I don't think they're related. This was a shooting that involved a few people as opposed to someone who was looking, who was probably looking to do a massacre type shooting, like similar to what was done in Las Vegas some years ago. So
the thing is, I don't believe they're related, but this is just like, you have to at some point think of you have to do something about this. This is the world that we live in, where there could be 40,000 people at a sporting event, and lives can just be, nobody ever thinks anything of hypothetical situations like, oh, what if there's a shooting? Nobody thinks of these hypothetical situations until it happens. And now that we just saw it happen, I think people need to realize this is a serious thing. And it's something that I don't think will stop anytime soon, because now the littlest things can provoke it. And I don't really want to go too far into this because it's not that much into this really has nothing to do with baseball before we just saw it happen. But there comes a point where you have to consider safety.
No, I agree, but that goes with anything. I don't know if the shooting in Washington was baseball related, so to speak. And I say that in the sense where, listen, Yankee Stadium, it's in the South Bronx, okay? I can assure you that I am absolutely positive that during the 60s and 70s, and who knows, could have been the 80s, even now, that within a block or two of the stadium, while the game was going on, it wouldn't shock me at all if shootings happened. I would be absolutely shocked if you pulled up statistics and said, nope, never during a game in the past 50 years has there ever been a shooting, particularly in the 60s and 70s. I'd be absolutely shocked. It was roughhouse neighborhood. It was rough. There was a lot of drugs around us, in the South Bronx. So Chicago, Kaminsky Field was on the south side of Chicago. I'm not too familiar with some of the other neighborhoods where other stadiums were or are, but if, it just wouldn't shock me if these incidents happened. I think because this happened practically outside the stadium, And if the stadium is like kind of like right in the middle of the city, so to speak, whereas Yankee Stadium, it's like it's bordered by the streets. Whereas Citi Field, it's kind of like wrapped around. It's in a remote area. It used to be an industrial area, so it's just basically wrapped around by parking lots now. Same thing when we went to Philadelphia. It was parking lots. It was kind of like remote. It wasn't like in a neighborhood. Atlanta, we went to Atlanta. That was like kind of wrapped around by like a shopping mall / restaurant plaza. So I don't know if it really, if that itself is related, but because there are so many other things that happen every day that people should always be aware of their surroundings. So, but we can move on from that. And so a week has gone, almost a week and a couple of days have gone since our last show. So, where do you think the races are now a week later?
Okay, well, it's funny how we were talking with Eric about how much of a serious threat the Nationals can be, and now they're back in fourth place. I think the Blue Jays are sort of back in it. I mean, they are still a few games behind the Athletics. Personally, I think the Angels, who, by the way, David Fletcher has a 26-game hitting streak. And I know now that I put that out there, he's going to go 0 for 3 tomorrow with a walk. But it's just a shame how they're going to be putting out a lineup of Fletcher, Ohtani, Rendon, Trout, Walsh when everybody's healthy. And they're still going to finish with about 80 wins. That's just incredible to me. But I think that the Indians are not going to go anywhere. I think the Angels are done. I think the Nationals are done. They're only 6 games out, but they're also 6 games under 500. There's no sign of Corbin improving. We saw him string together a couple of good starts, but nothing ever came of that. You have no news on Strasburg, and Soto's heating up, but I got to say, it would be one heck of a story if Soto replicates 2020 in the second half. Not only does that, but leads this team to a division win. But with DeGrom and Lindor out, I know DeGrom only went to the 10-day IL. He'll miss 2 starts at the most. The Phillies are 2 games out. They have the easiest remaining schedule. They have 2 top-tier pitchers. I don't think anybody can dispute Wheeler, and I still think that Nola is a top-tier pitcher. And I know you're probably thinking to yourself that I have a case of diamond mind bias there, but it's really something that I believe that he's still a top pitcher in this league.
Oh, I don't doubt him being, when they certainly have a good 1-2 punch when it comes to starting pitching. And
although it's not necessarily considered a 1-2-3, it's probably considered a 1-2, and then there's a gap, and then 3. Zach Eflin has actually put things together this season. And you mix that with a lineup that's finally showing its depth. Segura has been great as a leadoff hitter. Bryce Harper, still remaining to be one of the most underappreciated players in this sport. JT Realmuto is consistent as always. And then they have Bohm and Gregorius, who it's not like we're talking are it's not like these guys are Abraham Toro and Robel Garcia. They still can be effective. And I left out Hoskins right there. They have the lineup depth, they have the bench depth if somebody goes down, but they need bullpen.
They have an extremely flammable bullpen.
And it was on display. It was on display yesterday.
Yeah.
Ranger Suarez, I understand he's not going to save every game, but wow. It's just they go to their one reliable guy, but that's the thing. He had really good numbers, but he wasn't a reliable late inning guy. You can't toss guys into the closer role without just because they have good numbers, because being a closer is more than having good numbers.
So, and by the way, you know how you said, like, you're probably going to jinx David Fletcher. Well, you weren't very optimistic for the Yankees this weekend, and it's 7-1 in the bottom of the eighth. So, and the Yankees are winning. So no one saw that coming.
I mean, okay, we just took 2 out of 3. We started Cole in one game. I'd be kind of disappointed if we lost that game. And we put out Tyon this game, who was not a bad. We had Tyon and Green combined for 7 innings. I would also be kind of disappointed if the output to that was us currently trailing. And Britton comes back, and it's not great. But I think it's worth noting, let me go pull up the list of injured Yankees, because it is a new level of ridiculous at this point. How many guys are injured right now? And here it is. Tim LeCastro, done for the season. Corey Kluber, no word on him. Severino, even if he comes back, what can we rely on him at this point? He's pitched 12 innings of baseball in the last, I guess I'll just combine 2021 and 2020 as one full season. He's pitched 12 innings of baseball in the last about 350 games. Aaron Hicks is done for the year. Higashioka is only plays because we have Garrett Cole. And, I mean, you saw him pitch with Sanchez yesterday. He threw a great game, and we've seen him get blown up with Higashioka. And I'm not going to branch into this because I am trying to stick to the topic of Yankee injuries. But the personal catcher is so stupid because we didn't pay this guy $324 million to have a personal catcher. He is in charge of his own destiny every time he goes out to the mound. But all right, then we have Judge, who has been our only consistent hitter, both as far as staying on the field and producing. Urshela, Frazier, and Duhar, Voit, Urshela's on the COVID IL. Next 3 are all on the IL because of injury. Cortez has been extremely reliable. Loaizaga, King, O'Day, 3 guys who we need. And I know he's not the best arm, but there comes a point when you have so many injuries, it doesn't matter who it is. You can't have this happening where Wandy Peralta's hurt. And same with Ambergy and Lamar. Are they good players? No. Are they average players? No. Are they guys who are ideally on the 26-man roster? No, absolutely not. But if they're out there, they are out there because we need them.
And by the way, Darren O'Day is done for the season now.
Yeah, we have 2 outfielders done for the season, and I understand Castro's bat is not impressive, and Hicks was awful, but you can't tell me you'd rather see Gardner, Frazier, Lamar, and Duhar, and it's to the point where I can't even remember the last guy I was going to name as part of our outfield.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. And hey, Billy McKinney got dropped the other day, as I mentioned. Listen, he's probably better than Lamar and who was the other guy that got injured right before him?
Ambergy.
I
disagree with that. I do disagree with that. I think it's Park and Ambergy. Like, the Yankees are in first place in every single level of the minors. They have the best combined record of any minor league team. I think that it's the absolute right move to start bringing up these guys who are hitting .330 with .960 OPSs in AAA.
Yes and no. Again, I guess it depends. I mean, it's a tough call, particularly when you have I guess you have to look also at have they always been hitting like this? Is it, are they just breaking out now? How are they breaking out? What are they doing? What's showing differently? Because I mean, you know what? McKinney, not an all-star. We're talking about a 240 hitter probably, but a guy with a little bit of pop, can play the outfield, and has come through against major league pitching. I mean, as far as the Yankees are concerned, they're still in a race for a wild card berth. So anyone coming up, that's a lot to ask of a kid. But at this point, I guess it probably doesn't make a difference. But again, they just lost 3 call-ups. So where else? How far does their depth extend?
And the same guy you want replaced by Billy McKinney just hit a 2-run home run in Ryan Lamar, who I guess stayed in the game with his injury.
Look at that. Very nice.
But no, I'm not relying on this team. Well, I'm not relying on any of these guys outside of the top 3 in our lineup long term. If this Glaber stretch is legit, it's about time.
I was about to say, it's 2 nights in a row he hit a home run.
But as far as I'm concerned, you can't even call me a Debbie Downer for this, because please tell me what I'm supposed to be excited about in the Yankee season right now. My faith in this team won't be restored for and by a long time, I mean like later in the season, if they can actually sweep a series. But hey, I mean, I said we needed to win. I said we needed to go 7-4 in these next 11 games against the Red Sox, and 8-5 in total of those 11 games plus 2 against the Phillies. We're starting off 2-1. We'll see what happens.
Exactly. There we go. We'll see what happens. And okay, so I think we're gonna keep our show short and sweet tonight. And we'll be back. We plan to be back later in the week with a guest. We will have a guest. And you got any last thing you want to wrap things up with?
Yeah, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is AL MVP, not Shohei Ohtani. That's what I want to be the final thing our listeners take in.
Okay. Well, listen, you got a 50-50 chance of being right. So, and if it turns out you're wrong, you can say, well, my batting average is 500 on this. So, all right. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back later in the week, and we'll see you then.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.